is up, guys? It is time for yet another tier list video. I'm your host, BC King, and I have seen almost every Spider-Man movie there is. I have seen all the Tobey Maguire movies, the Andrew Garfield movies, the MCU ones, and of course the Spider-Verse. So I thought I would rank every single Spider-Man movie, and let's see which ones I like the best, which ones I like the worst. And before we start, there is one I have not seen, which is this, apparently terrible, like, 1980s, maybe 1990s, I'm not sure, but, like, maybe late 80s Spider-Man movie. So I'm gonna put that in the didn't watch category. I've heard it's, like, pretty bad, so I probably would have ranked that low anyway, like, maybe my lowest. But, with that said, let's get to, the movies. So to start, we have, of course, the Tobey Maguire movies. Let's start with Spider-Man 1. Obviously an instant classic. It set the groundwork for hero movies to come. You know, it was such a summer blockbuster. And it still has aged so well to this day. You've got Green Goblin, of course. Willem Dafoe is such a great villain. Always love him. Tobey Maguire is a great Peter Parker. I love MJ. I love all the fight scenes. I love the final fight between Green Goblin and Peter Parker where Green Goblin gets stabbed by his own glider. That was fun. And then you see that apparently Harry thinks that Spider-Man killed his father. So overall, it has aged surprisingly well and is still a ton of fun to watch. So for this one, I would say number 5 is where I would put Spider-Man 1. Because again, there are just 4 more that I think are better to me than this one. But as far as setting the groundwork for, you know, not just Spider-Man movies, but Marvel movies and just hero movies in general, this one definitely did its job. It was such a huge hit when it came out back in 2002, and like I said, it's aged very, very well. It's still a lot of fun to watch, so Spider-Man 1, number 5. Now, obviously, the next one is an instant classic like the first one, but even more of an instant classic. We got Spider-Man 2. Definitely the best, far and away, of the Maguire trilogy. It is a fantastic movie. I love the tone shift. I love Doc Ock as a villain, one of the best. I love the train fight scene at the end. I love the ending where you see Doc Ock become good and he sinks down with his machine. But yeah, talk about a sequel that improved in almost every way from the first one, which is already a great movie, by the way. But I'm pretty sure a lot of you would think I'd rank this a bit higher, like maybe like 2 or 1. I'm putting this at 4. And again, I've done some thinking. I actually rewatched a couple of these very recently. Because I had this plan for a tier list about a month or 2 ago. So I rewatched a bit of some of these movies. And I still love 2 so much. But I think my top 3 stuck with me more than this one did. But it's still a fantastic movie. MJ's great again. I love Harry's kind of dark turn because he thinks Spider-Man killed his dad in the first movie. You got that unmasking scene where he unmasks Spider-Man and he finds out that he's actually Peter and he's like shocked at it. But yeah, far and away the best of the Maguire trilogy. Spider-Man 2 is a fantastic, one of the best Marvel films of all time. On the other hand, though, we got Spider-Man 3, one of the most mixed films, not just in Marvel, but of all time. There is a large group that at least likes this movie and even loves it to an extent, and the other half completely hates it. Now, as far as me, I am someone who definitely likes it, but it is far and away the worst of the Maguire trilogy. It's not a bad movie at all, but when you're coming off of 2, which was such a fantastic movie, and the first one to be fair, this one just did not live up to the expectations. I think people had expectations of like, oh, you know, it's the 3rd movie and it could be the final of the trilogy, who knows? But, you know, they got Venom, it could be, you know, the best. They got Black Spider-Man, you know, and it just didn't stick the landing. No pun intended there. So for this one, I would say number 8 is where I'd put Spider-Man 3. Again, not a bad film. There are parts I do like about it. I love Venom, although I will say the guy who plays, whatchamacallit, Topher Grace, that's his name. The guy who becomes Venom at the end, I didn't really like him. I thought it was a bad Venom. And I think their main issue here is that they juggled way too much. They had Sandman, who was a cool villain, but he felt kind of just in there and not really like a huge deal most of the time. You got Harry, of course, because he becomes a new Green Goblin. And And then, like, they were doing too much with this. Like, they wanted Green Goblin, Venom, and Sandman all, you know, trying to, you know, take down Peter. And they did nail it in a future film we'll talk about here in just a bit. Spoiler alert. But as far as this movie, it was a bit too much. It was just trying to do too much of a good thing, and it ended up being kind of clunky. So, yeah, Spider-Man 3 is not a bad film, as I said, but it's definitely the worst of the Maguire trilogy. It's still a fun watch a lot of the time. You know, Dancing Peter is always fun to see. I love Evil Peter. But, yeah, it could have been better. So, number 8 for Spider-Man 3. So, Spider-Man 3 was definitely not the best send-off for Tobey Maguire. But then we go into The Amazing Spider-Man, which is the 2 Andrew Garfield movies. Now, here's the thing, right? I think Andrew Garfield, in some aspects, is maybe the best of the live-action Spider-Man actors. I love Maguire, I love Tom Holland, but I think certain parts of Andrew Garfield's acting definitely makes him stand out as Spider-Man compared to the other two. But his movies are definitely very, very, very mixed. I think they're still fun in a way, but, like, if you saw the Maguire trilogy, you can tell that these ones just, they could not live up to it, or even surpass it. So, The Amazing Spider-Man 1, I think, is a good movie, and it does a good job of introducing this new Andrew Garfield Spider-Man into, that Marvel universe, the Sony universe. But, I wasn't a huge fan of Lizard as a villain. I wasn't a huge Lizard fan. He's cool in some ways, but I thought he was just like a meh kind of villain. The final fight's kind of cool, I guess. But this one just didn't really stick with me, in my opinion. There are good things about it, but I think right off the bat you can tell that this is going to be a struggle to, you know, live up to Maguire's Amazing Spider-Man movies. So, yeah, number 9 is where I'd put the first Andrew Garfield movie. Again, it's a fun watch. There are things to like about it, but I think overall I'd probably rather rewatch either the Maguire movies or the MCU ones. But it's still kind of a fun watch. There's good stuff in there, but definitely doesn't quite top the Maguire trilogy. So number 9 for the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. Now the second one, when I first saw it, I was like, you know what? This might be better, right? Because you got Electro, fun villain. You got, who else was it? I'm forgetting. Who else was there? It was, the new Green Goblin. I hate the new Green Goblin in this one. I don't know who plays him, but he just, you cannot top Willem Dafoe. I'm sorry. Like, this Green Goblin did not land for me. I did like Electro. I like the scene where he's in New York City and he makes the whole entire city go out because he's just scared of being in public with his new electric form. The fight between him and Peter was cool and all. I do like the Gwen Stacy ending where she falls from the tower and Peter fails to catch her. That was an emotional moment. But overall, like the first one, it didn't really land that well. And I think it's actually worse than the first one on an overall sense. I mean, there are things I think that are better in the second one than the first one, but if you're combining like every single aspect of both movies, I think the second one has worse things about it and is definitely a lot less memorable than the first one. So yeah, I would say number 10 is where I'd put this one. Probably my least favorite of the Spider-Man films, but again, I will enjoy watching it here and there, but like if I had to like rank how excited I would be to rewatch each of these, this is for sure number 10. I would be the least excited to go back and rewatch Amazing Spider-Man 2 because it's still a okay movie, but it could have been so much more than what it was, like the first one. So, yeah, number 10 for Amazing Spider-Man 2. Alright, now we got the Tom Holland movies. So, first up, we got Homecoming. Now, I think Homecoming for me is the one I remember the least in terms of all the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man movies. What I do remember, though, is I did like it a lot. I adored the one scene where you got Peter and Iron Man, after they saved the ship, and, Peter's like, if you care, you'd actually be here, and you see Iron Man pop out of the suit because he's actually there, and then he literally, like, talks down Peter, and it was such a crazy piece of dialogue. But yeah, I think Homecoming, for me, it's kind of a toss-up in terms of which one I like more between this one and Far From Home. I would say I like Homecoming just a tad bit more. So, number 6 is where I'd put Homecoming. Because, I think it and Far From Home are definitely, you know, kind of similar in terms of, like, the quality of them. I think a lot of people would actually put Far From Home way above even No Way Home, which is kind of crazy, because I don't think that at all. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I enjoy Homecoming. Vulture's a good villain, not my favorite, but I do like Michael Keaton. Whoa. Now that we mentioned that, there is one scene I gotta bring up. Just one scene from this movie. And you guys know where I'm going with if you've seen this movie. The car scene. Oh, man. That scene was fire, man. Where you got Vulture and Peter in the car after they drop off his daughter at the, what is it, the prom or something. He pulls out the gun and he's like, does she know that you're Spider-Man? And he's like, what? And he's like, good, she doesn't. That's great. If you get involved in my business, though, I will not hesitate to kill you. It is such a cold piece of dialogue, but I love it. It was such a well-acted scene. I think that scene alone probably puts it above Far From Home, because I do love Far From Home, but that one scene was just so good. But, yeah, again, I love Iron Man's cameo in this one. That was a fun bit. So, Homecoming is great. Not my favorite of all time, but it's a really good film, so number 6 for Homecoming. Alright, so we're going chronologically, if you guys can't tell. So before Far From Home came out in 2019, we had one film in 2018, which was, of course, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Man, when this film first came out, everyone was talking about it. It was getting glowing reviews across the board because of its art style and its animation and its just action sequences. And then I watched it myself, and I was like, yep, I see it. I see why people love it. It is, in my opinion, one of the coolest looking movies on the planet. Like, if you were to judge movies based on how they looked, like their animation, their art style, this one for me is somewhere near the top, because their choice of art style here with the whole comic book aesthetic works so well. And I hope they adapt that to other, like, you know, superhero films, Spider-Man films, MCU, and even Disney, maybe. I don't see Disney make a movie with that art style. I think it'd be great. But, if you guys can't tell, this movie is phenomenal, and in my opinion, to this day, is still my number 1 pick. It is the Spider-Man movie, I would say, is the most exciting to watch over and over again. Like, I love Spider-Man 2, I love No Way Home, I love the first Maguire movie, and I do love the second Spider-Verse film, Across the Spider-Verse, but this film, man, at the time, it was legendary, and it's still legendary to this day, but, like, man, at the time in 2018, it was the talk of the town. People put this film, and again, 2018, Infinity War came out, if you guys don't remember. This film was just as talked about in that year as Infinity War, and Infinity War was already a massive film, of course, because it's like, you know, the Avengers, you know, coming together to help beat Thanos, but, even this film was talked about more in some cases than Infinity War, which is just crazy, but, yeah, enough ranting, I'm sorry, this film's just incredible. I love Into the Spider-Verse, still a legendary film, so number 1 pick for me. Going back to Tom Holland's movies, we got Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, I did rewatch it a bit recently, and I know I liked it when it first came out, but then I rewatched it, and it didn't really hit the same for me. I don't know why. I still like it overall, but I think it's for sure my favorite, or not my favorite, my least favorite of the Tom Holland MCU films. So, this one for me is number 7 on my list, but, I still like it. I mean, I love Mysterio as a villain. I love the elemental fight scenes. I love the final fight scene on the bridge where you got Peter and the drones. I love the post-credit scene where he reveals that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and that sets up No Way Home, of course. But, yeah, I didn't find myself wanting to rewatch it that badly after watching it again recently, because, like, you know, I did watch a bit of Homecoming, and I remember I really liked it, but then Far From Home, I was like, you know, I liked it, but I wouldn't be that excited to go back and rewatch it. Like, it's still a really good movie, but I'd rather rewatch either No Way Home or Homecoming before I watch Far From Home again, because those films to me are better. But, yeah, I love the whole MJ Spider-Man relationship. That was fun to see play out. I love Ned in this one, too. I love seeing, you know, Ned and that one girl get together. Sorry, I didn't want to stutter. But, yeah, and of course we got Nick Fury making cameos in this. That was cool. Also the ending where you see, Talos, apparently, who was Nick Fury the whole time, that, like, post-credit scene. That was crazy. But, yeah, I love Far From Home. It's a great film, but probably my least favorite of the Tom Holland films. So, number 7. Alright, you want to talk about a film that was, like Spider-Verse, the talk of the town when it first came out, Spider-Man No Way Home. Literally, this film had, like, endgame levels of hype. People, like, I was watching reactions online of people in the theater watching this, like, when it first came out in 2021. And like Endgame and Infinity War, people were losing their minds. Because, of course, we got the return of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. We got the original Spider-Man coming back to help this universe's Peter Parker. You got all the villains. You got Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Sandman, Electro. You got that epic fight scene with Spider-Man and Doc Ock on the bridge. And then you got Spider-Man and Sandman fighting Electro. Then you got Spider-Man and the other Spider-Man fighting all the villains at the... in New York, where the Statue of Liberty is being, I think, rebuilt or something, I don't know. But, every fight scene here is just so good. Also, I adored that final fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin, where, you see Spider-Man about to go full-on heel mode, and then, Tobey Spider-Man stops him. It is just a great watch. Now, I do hear people who say that this film doesn't hit as much the second time when you, like, you know the cameos coming up. But even then, bro, I would argue against that. I think this film is still one of the most rewatchable Spider-Man films of them all. Because even though you know the cameos are coming up, it's still a great time, man. Like, seeing Tobey and Andrew and Tom all team up, it's always just fun to watch. And the swinging scene where they're all, like, posing before they fight the villains, one of the most iconic scenes of all time. So, for me, No Way Home is easily number 3. Not quite number 2, we'll get to that in a second, which might be a hot take, I don't know. But, yeah, No Way Home, still an incredible film, and again, I do hear people that say that the cameos don't hit as hard as you rewatch it over and over, but even then, still an incredible feat that this movie even exists, because it almost didn't. If you guys remember, there was a whole contract talk with Marvel and Sony where they couldn't agree on a deal, and then this film almost didn't happen. But thank God it did, because, man, this film was such an experience, and one that I will not forget when I watched it in the theaters for the first time. But, yeah, No Way Home, easy number 3, and, yeah, great film. Now, this might be the hottest take on this list. I'm not sure, but hear me out, alright? Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I have heard so many people say that this film is so much worse than the first film, and is kind of a mess. And I think the reason why is because there are a lot of cameos in this one. You got all the Spider-Men in the Spider-Verse trying to, capture Peter Parker. You got that one scene where you actually see Andrew Garfield, and you see the whole Ben Parker bit. That was crazy. But, man, this film, to me, like, I can hear people's complaints. I can hear people saying that the cameos are, you know, they're too much, they're too frequent, there's too much happening at any one given time. But even so, man, this film is still fantastic to me. It's easy number 2. I will agree that it does not top the first film overall, because the first film is just so incredibly iconic. But man, like, the animation in Across the Spider-Verse is just so goddamn good. Like, all the fight scenes are fantastic. That whole chase scene where you see every Spider-Man trying to tackle Miles Morales, or, like, capture him. I don't know how they did that so, like, smoothly. I think it took them, like, a year or 2 to actually animate that one scene, right? They had a whole interview about that. But, yeah, that scene was phenomenal. And, the cliffhanger at the end, where you see that Miles goes to a universe that doesn't have a Spider-Man, and that version's Miles is actually the Prowler. Whoo, man, I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse. And I should mention that too. I did want to wait to make this until that movie came out, but Beyond the Spider-Verse is so, like, deep into production, and there's, like, a bunch of issues going on where that film might not come out for another couple years. I don't know at this point. So I thought now was probably the best time to make a Spider-Man movie tier list. And then once that film comes out, I'll rank it on a Twitter post somewhere. I'll bring this back up and we'll rank it somewhere. But Across the Spider-Verse, I think, sets up the third film incredibly well. It's got great animation, great character moments. I hope they keep building on Gwen and Miles' relationship, because it did really, it worked out pretty well in this movie. And I do love all the cameos. I mean, again, it might be a bit too much for some people, I get that argument, but for me, it was great stuff. So, might be a hot take, I don't know, but Across the Spider-Verse, to me, is my number 2 favorite film, right behind the first Spider-Verse film. And with that, we are done. We have ranked every Spider-Man film. Well, I guess almost all of them. We didn't rank the terrible 80s one. There might be some I missed, like the cartoon ones. I don't know, but the ones that matter, in my opinion, are on this list. So there you go. So there is a final list. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought, what you would change, and what your hot takes about this list are. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.